All right, today we're jumping into a single, really intense chapter from an ancient source, Exodus 17. And what's so wild about it is that it's not just one story, it's two massive, back-to-back life-or-death situations, all kicking off with a huge question of faith.
And this is the question that just hangs over everything. It's raw, it's desperate, and it's asked when things are about as bad as they can get. It really sets the stage for everything that's about to unfold, tapping into that core human doubt we all feel when things go wrong.
Okay, so let's set the scene for this first crisis. You have this whole community of people, the Israelites, and they're traveling. They make camp at a place called Rephidim. And there's one tiny problem. They're in the middle of a desert, and there is literally no water. None! And this is where that survival instinct kicks in. And, it gets ugly fast. The panic, the thirst, it all just boils over. All that fear turns to anger, and they turn on the one person who led them there in the first place, Moses.
It starts out as this really blunt, simple demand. Give us water to drink. But what they're really saying, underneath it all, is, why did you bring us out to this wasteland to die? You can just feel the trust between them and their leader totally falling apart.
Now flip the coin and look at it from Moses' side. He is absolutely backed into a corner. He's feeling the full force of all their fear and anger, and his cry out to God here, it's pure desperation. This isn't just some disagreement. He thinks they're about to kill him. The stakes are as high as they can possibly be.
So things are about to boil over, right? And the whole story pivots from this human mess to, well, a divine solution. Moses asks for help, and the answer he gets is very specific and pretty unusual, to be honest.
The instructions God gives are incredibly detailed, almost like a ritual, and every step here is packed with meaning. He can't do this in private. He has to have witnesses. He has to use the exact same staff that was a symbol of power back in Egypt. And then he's told to strike a solid rock. I mean, the last place you'd ever expect to find water.
And believe it or not, it works. Moses does exactly what he was told. He hits the rock, and water just gushes out. Just like that, the immediate crisis is over. Everybody's saved from dying of thirst. It's a straight-up miracle. But even with the water flowing, this whole ordeal leaves a mark, a permanent one. They actually give the place two names, so nobody will ever forget what went down there. Massah, which means testing, because they tested God's patience, and Meribah, meaning quarreling, for their fight with Moses. The memory of their doubt is now literally on the map.
So you'd think, okay, crisis averted, right? Time to catch their breath. Nope. Just when they've solved the internal problem of thirst, a brand new threat shows up from the outside, completely out of the blue.
Right there, in the exact same spot, Rephidim. This rival group, the Amalekites, just attacks them. So the community goes from fighting themselves in their own despair to fighting a real physical enemy. The whole game has changed.
So check out the battle plan here, because it's this really cool two-pronged approach. You've got the action down in the valley, where this young guy Joshua is leading the actual fight. But at the same time, you've got this other thing happening up on a hill. Moses is up there with his brother Aaron and another leader named Hur, playing a totally different but just as vital role.
All right, so the battle kicks off. But how they win or lose, it's not about swords and shields. Not really. It all comes down to something really strange happening up on that hill.
Here's the deal. It was super simple and super weird. As long as Moses kept his hands up in the air, holding that staff of God, Joshua's forces were winning down below. It was like this direct, visible connection between what was happening spiritually and what was happening physically.
But the second his arms got tired and started to drop, you guessed it, the tide of the battle would instantly turn. The Amalekites would start winning. You can just picture the soldiers in the valley, fighting for their lives, glancing up at that hill, knowing their fate depended on one old man's endurance.
So what do? I mean, the guy's only human, his arms are getting tired. And the solution they come up with is it's pure teamwork. Moses can't do it alone, so his friends Aaron and Hur, they step in, they find a big rock for him to sit on, and then they stand on either side of him and physically hold his arms up until the sun goes down. It's this incredible picture of community literally holding up their leader to get the win.
So the battle's over, the dust settles. Let's break down what happens next. First, Joshua gets a clear military victory on the ground. Then, God tells Moses, write this all down to create a permanent record so no one forgets. And finally, Moses builds an altar and names it, "The Lord is my banner," basically creating a spiritual monument to their victory. They made sure to remember this from every possible angle. And that's where this whole chapter leaves us. It gives us two totally different crises. One was a battle against doubt and thirst inside the camp, and the other was a battle against an army outside the camp. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Which fight is actually harder? The one against the enemy you can see charging at you, or the one against the fear and mistrust that can tear you apart from the inside?